Hey guys, it's Mitch. How's it going? Well, we're back to doing some more Malibu. You know what they say, never go full Malibu, yet here we are. We're taking a look today at mantra number 1. So just before we get into it, if you enjoy the channel, if you feel like you might want to help out a little bit, go subscribe on my Patreon. Links are in the description, gives you early access to everything I do. Helps out the channel, helps to buy new comics. So we've hit a few Ultraverse titles before this. I've done like Rune number 1, Prime number 1, Ultra Force. That might have been it. And Prime got enough views that I was like, shit, I should do more of these Ultraverse titles. And I bought a whole bunch of them. And then Ultra Force, like, did okay. And it's like, oh well, I still got the titles. I can still make videos about them. So yeah, we're going to do Mantra today. I don't know a whole lot about Mantra. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of information online. Just like, I don't know. Somebody had an idea and they went, why not? This is written by Mike W. Barr, which is a name I recognize the name, but I can't like associate it with anything. I looked him up. It looks like he's written a whole bunch of DC stuff, and you know, he might be good. I'm not for sure. This is also drawn by Terry Dodgson. This is Terry Dodson's first mainstream work. He did something else before this. It was like rock and roll comics, where it was like biographies of rock stars, that kind of thing. But yeah, no, this is his first. You know, let's draw some superheroes comics. And chances are, if you're watching a video about a nobody talking about Mantra and the Ultraverse and 90s comics, you probably know who Terry Dodgson is. He's gotten to be very good these days. Like, he's one of the few guys who has a recognizable style that is very nice. So naturally, he's priced himself out of ever having to draw regular comics anymore. But on Mantra, he's just starting to pick it up. I'm not sure how old he is at this time. I would guess pretty young. And, you know, new enough that even as a no-name, they still got another no-name guy to do the cover for this. This is by somebody called Huang, who I don't recognize that last name. Not any better than what's inside the cover. Maybe he's just a bit more reliable or had some kind of cachet. I don't know. But as far as, you know, a professional comic cover goes, this is fine, I suppose. It's not quite up there, I don't think. You know, Mantra's pose is pretty good, actually. Like, the figure work isn't too bad at all. This arm is a little bit squishy. That's about it, really. This guy down here is like, it's okay. It's a bit more along the lines of something you'd sketch in the corner of a piece of paper while you're doing something else. And this guy up here, just not very well placed, really. Because, you know, you got the Ultraverse corner box over it here. You got the logo kind of creeping over it as well. So as its own piece, it's all right. It's not too bad, but when you factor that in, it's like, that didn't work out too well now, did it? Okay, so we're going to start off with a big old splash cover piece, which, you know, I guess we've seen a little bit here and there. Not so much with the Ultraverse. I guess the most recent ones we've seen are with, like, Dark Horse. But it's, you know, it's fine. Nothing really stands out as not being particularly good. The figures maybe a little bit off. I don't know. It seems like it's mostly all right. It's, I guess, most interesting just because thinking this is Terry Dodgson and thinking how those faces would have looked, you know, 20, 30 years later, just how stylish that shit would look. And it's like, man, he's really not there yet. Huh, okay. Like I said, written by Mike W. Barr, inked by Al Vey. That's a real guy. And colored by Paul Mounts. You know, Paul Mounts keeps hanging around and coloring weird stuff. Why not, I suppose? I'm at the point now where I'm not even 100% sure what to think when I see Paul Mounts in the credits. It's like, oh yeah, no, he's like an accredited colorist. He knows what he's doing. It's like, well, he's fine, you know, but he does some weird stuff every once in a while, and sometimes his stuff does not look very good at all. I don't recall this one standing out as being any kind of lackluster job, though, so I think he does okay in this one. Okay, so we're going to start out with a man drinking. And he's got some hardware laid out in front of him, but gets a knock at the door, so he's going to cover that up with a shirt. He goes and opens the door. It's some guy there with some papers, and there's weird interplay going on that isn't very well explained to start with. So, for instance, he says, sorry about all the stairs. They must be bugging your leg. And it's like, I don't remember telling you anything about my leg. And he thinks to himself, shit, that's right. I'm not supposed to know him this well. Then he hands him some papers to sign. And he's like, shit, I forgot this body's left-handed. Which will play into the story eventually, but right now it's just kind of confusing because there's no context. It's a neat idea from a writer's point of view. It's like, okay, so this is a guy who has had different bodies, I guess. Another knock on the door, and it turns out this is his wife, who he takes a second to remember her name. It's, I think this one's Melissa. I've had so many wives over the years, I can't even keep track anymore. She walks in, she's got their son, apparently, Not the best version of a little kid, but like I said, he's learning. And so it turns out the papers that he's signing are separation agreement or divorce agreement, something like that. And she'll be well taken care of. And she's like, I don't care. I just want my husband back. Like, what the hell even happened? And he's like, it's nothing you need to worry about. It wasn't you. It's just me. Now piss off. And slams the door on him here. So as far as I can tell, the deal with this is that this guy body hops. And he's been doing it for centuries, essentially. So this most recent one, he's just hopped into the body of some poor guy who had a family. And he's just like, well, my thing is more important. Took that body over, separated it from all of his family and friends, and then, carried on with his mission, which apparently requires a big-ass gun. And the art here is a mix. Like I said, it's very clear that he's still picking things up here and there. Some of these, the angles he's picking, not too bad at all, really. He's shooting for Dutch angles. He's getting some very small panels here that don't look as though, it's sometimes tough to draw a small panel and not make the figures look stiff or like superposed. And he's not doing a bad job with that here. On the other hand, he's got a real problem with hands by the looks of it, at least on this first page. I kind of half wonder if this first page was done like maybe some time before the rest of the comic as like a tryout or something. Maybe not, because again, this hand right here where the guy, holds out his hand to shake it, that's not a great looking hand. And then you get this shot here, which is like low angle from below the, this is a lawyer, looking up behind him up at the, this is like a motel, guy's leaning on the rail. That all looks pretty good. It's interesting, the kind of stuff where he's like, okay, I've nailed this, and this other stuff here, I still have a lot of trouble with. So anyway, our guy here gets summoned to a conjurer club by a ghostly floating head. So that was him there as well, saying, Boneyard has made his move, Lucas. Follow my thoughts to the encounter. So, okay, we know this guy's name is Lucas. Decent shading on that guy, on this shot here as well. So I guess he follows his thoughts to the Conjurers Club, and he meets up with a bunch of other guys here who are all decked out in like scale mail or like half scale mail. And they're going to have to enter into the club. They've all got like heavy artillery going on. And inside is some Loki looking dude. And he's got his own like entourage of guys in like, I guess, studded armor. And it doesn't look too great. It just kind of looks like they've all been bedazzled. So it turns out these guys are looking for some kind of magical artifact. And they've stopped by a magic shop because they figure that's where you find magic items. Like hiding a thing in plain sight. That kind of thing. And apparently they're right, because the spirit of Boneyard appears and goes, that's the thing I'm looking for. Get that thing to me. And leave no witnesses. He's like, you got it. So moves to slit the guy's throat. Doesn't look like he quite gets to it. That's good. But before he can swipe, that's when the guys in the scale mail bust through the door. And they've all got like their AR-15s and shit versus these guys. In their like studded armor with their knives and their sticks. These pages look a little better than the ones that we just had. Like these ones here, not very, like there's a lot of lapses. Like the hands look way better here. So I don't know if he figured something out or if it was a lot later or what. But he made a huge leap somewhere. But, I mean, it might just be that he's referencing them directly now, and he hadn't thought of that up until then, or like just it didn't seem necessary, or he was in a time crunch, something like that. So yeah, they're all gonna fight each other now. The guys in the green keep stabbing, whilst the guys in the blue keep shooting with their AR-15s. Meanwhile, it looks like the Archimage, who is leading the guys in the scale mail, who were theoretically the good guys, because that's the side we started on, is battling against Boneyard. I mean, Boneyard's got to be the bad guy, right? Kind of a tough-looking pose. Like, Boneyard's not too bad. Archimage would be okay if it weren't for this leg here. That is rather awkwardly placed. Good muscle tone, though, for a guy that old. And yeah, the guys keep fighting. Looks like some guy gets his neck cracked. The main guy here, Notch, who is called that because every time he kills a guy, he notches his staff here. Good for him. Doesn't seem to have too many, though, considering these are like centuries old people by the sounds of it. That seems to be the deal, where these are forces that have been around since like the 5th century or something like that. And they keep body hopping through the years in their never-ending battle. So Notch gets tased. Lucas was able to untie the guy who was tied to the chair, but while he's doing that, Notch runs up. I guess that tasing didn't work too well because he stabs Lucas through the solar plexus or something. Again, like some of these hands don't look bad at all. The poses are pretty, like this pose is pretty good. Just the odd little awkwardness here and there. So the Archimage and Boneyard are gonna have a little, like, they're gonna break it down for us where they're like, okay, you know what? We've both lost somebody today. Why don't we just like calls it evens and we'll take off. We'll do this again some other time. And I guess that's what they do. Like, no wonder this fight's been going on for centuries. But yeah, so Lucas's team runs away. Lucas's body is still back in the magic shop. The guys in the studded armor get rejuvenated by Notch or by Boneyard, one of the two. But Lucas gets his heart cut out by Notch, so he's not going to be able to use that body again. So as they're leaving, it looks like they head out to their car in their medieval times outfits, and they're going to ring up some outside help for the next encounter they're going to have. And as soon as the phone rings, somebody shoots right all around a vase, but doesn't hit it. So I guess that's good shooting and not bad shooting. And we get kind of a close-up of this guy here. I think his name's Warstrike. And he goes, no names, not on this line. You know who I am, and I know why you want me. While he sniffs a rose, like, ooh. I wonder if that ever causes some confusion when you call this guy up and he just goes, I know why you want me. And it's like, okay, can you elaborate a little bit so I make sure I'm not calling the wrong kind of line? Pretty good shot of him standing there, very solid, although some of it feels a little posed, like he's got like a little figure he can move the arms of and shit. Because, I mean, like, people generally don't hold phones that way, but that's okay. We're being a little nitpicky. All right, so from there, we're going to cut to what seems to be a double date with a couple of late 20s, early 30s couples. This is Eden, who, looks an awful lot like the Mantra chick from the cover. But yeah, she's just going out with her boyfriend. Her mom's looking after the kids for the night. And it's all just kind of boring, like family drama stuff, I suppose. Like, not even drama, just like, yeah, we're going to have a good night. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this. Yeah, me too. And you know what? I managed to skip these pages the first time through. This paper is a little bit thin, so I must have accidentally kept them together. So this is the bit where they explain what the deal is with the never-ending battle. So no wonder I was confused, maybe. But this is from Lucas's point of view. This is the soul walk. So this is when he's traveling between bodies. And it's kind of an interesting thing where he starts out to say, hey, that was my first body. Look at that. That's always cool to see. And he kind of goes through them all and he's kind of musing. Like, man, sometimes you think about like all of the souls I've kicked out of their bodies along the way. It's like, man, sometimes I feel a little bad about that. But we got this never-ending battle to fight. So I guess it's worth it. So he reaches the end of the line, goes into the light, and sees his hand ring the doorbell on a door here. And immediately goes, okay, so I'm black, but I got a wedding ring on. That's a bit of a problem. And then Eden opens the door. So he's jumped into the body of the guy who was in on the double date on the other side. Not Eden's boyfriend, the other woman's estranged husband, it sounds like. So his estranged wife comes and greets him. And he's like, oh, good. We can meet everybody. And yeah, we're going to have such a nice time tonight. And he's like, yeah, sorry, I can't. I got to go. And he backs out and she cries in Eden's shoulder because like, shit, we were doing so well. We were going to try again. What happened? And, Lucas doesn't give a shit. He goes back to the car, checks himself in the rearview mirror. He's like, oh, yeah, okay, I look all right. Looks like I'm fairly fit, non-smoker. If this guy likes whiskey, I think we're going to do all right. But before he can leave, Eden runs out to the car and chews out this guy for leaving his wife in, when they're going to have their big night. And he's just like, piss off, woman, I got shit to do. And he tears off in the car. All reasonably good looking stuff. He even got to do some kind of visual stuff here with the soul walk. That's kind of cool. Let's make sure I don't skip any more pages by accident. All right, so Lucas drives down to downtown Los Angeles, because this apparently is where the headquarters of his order is. Heads up to a room that I guess he knows fairly well. This is some kind of club, but this is the club that his order hangs out in. And the woman at the door recognizes him immediately. She is the Archmage's familiar, so she doesn't necessarily see the body. She sees who's behind the body. So yeah, walks him over to his buddies in the scale mill. They're all like, hey, good to see you, buddy. Nice body you got there. And at that point, so now everybody's here at the club. And that's when the Archimage shows up, showing way too much leg for a dude that old. But, you know, you do you, I guess. And he's going to address his gang. He's an old man with a ponytail in like barely a loincloth in a disco, addressing guys in scale mail. And he's like, okay, this is feeling like a particular kind of movie. You know, maybe not an adult movie, although it could go that way. But like some whacked out 70s or 80s drug trip. Like this is along the lines of Flash Gordon. And he's telling his buddies, yeah, the fight isn't going too great, but I've come across a new stratagem that I'm going to use in our war against Boneyard. Let me tell you all about it. But before he can tell him all about it, the image of Boneyard appears in the window. And it turns out, I guess this is what he was looking for in the magic shop. It's not quite explained, but that would make some sense at least. So now he knows the Archimage's true name, and he says a whole bunch of symbols. And at the utterance of his name, the Archimage vanishes, or appears to anyway. Turns out that's not quite the case, as Notch shows up and picks up little Archimage action figure with hip thrusting action, I'm sure. And now the bad guys are going to attack the good guys again, because it's a never-ending battle. That's what you do. Only now, with the Archimage no longer being in play, there's a question as to what will happen if one of them dies, because he's the one who usually brings them back. So they have their fight in the disco. The guys in the studded armor, they've got magic, apparently. I don't think they used it very much back in the magic shop. That would have been the most appropriate place. But they use that versus the Archimage's guys who are using like hand grenades and the AR-15s. Lucas tries to get his buddies out the door, but before he can get out himself, that's when Warstrike busts in. Not a bad-looking panel, really. I think the only thing I can maybe complain about is I'd like to see a bit more debris from the hole that he's made in a wood wall. How is there a wood wall in the disco? Doesn't matter. But the drawing itself is pretty good. It's nicely detailed. You know, even the guys in the bedazzled gear, they all look pretty good. Their sequins are all drawn out and everything. And he even put a bit of extra shadow to define the musculature, which is nice. So yeah, Warstrike comes in and guts Lucas immediately. So now he's back in the Soul Walk. And without the Archimage, he can't go back into the body he was in. And as far as he knows, he's not going to reincarnate in another body. So it's like, shit, I guess this is the last time. Except then he wakes up next to some blonde dude. It turns out it's a blonde dude we saw earlier because he's woken up in Eden's body. We get a big old splash page for that as he sees himself in the mirror. So that's not a bad way to go for the big reveal, is to do the big splash page thing. The only problem, I guess, is that this should be on a page turn. There's a couple of those in here where there should be a reveal on a page turn that didn't happen. It turns up on the other side. And I wonder how much of it is down to this cover sheet. Why was that there? It didn't have to be there. The figure itself, I mean, doesn't look too bad. It's a little bit odd here and there, but for the most part, the musculature seems about right. The shading seems a little off, mostly around the shoulder here. But like overall, yeah, not too bad. A little bit cross-eyed in the reflection here. But that's a smaller part of the drawing. Sometimes it's tough to get away with that. That's mostly on the inker. The inker should have figured that out. So this is Lucas in Eden's body, grabs the sheets, runs off to the bathroom and goes, oh, Jesus, look at that. Her boyfriend knocks on the door. It's like, are you okay? What the hell just happened? And she's like, sure, gets him in there, and then knocks him on his ass, locks him in the bathroom, and tries to get ready to go out again, because that's what, got to go back to that disco. As long as the bar's open, that dance floor's rocking. He's got to get back. Fun stuff here, though, where he's like, this is all wrong. You get the feeling he almost has never been in a woman's body before, which sounds a bit off, but he's like, this feels all wrong. The rhythm is wrong. The movement, the center of gravity is wrong. That's an interesting part that you wouldn't necessarily think of. And he's like, and the boobs. What do I do with the boobs? They're sticking way the hell out in front of me. Looks like he does put on the dress for a moment, but I guess that feels too weird for him. So he actually puts on the boyfriend's clothes instead, because that's a bit more comfortable, and heads right out of the hotel, leaving him to, I guess, leave in the dress. Isn't that fun? Bitching in his mind about the Archimage. How he's going to kill him if he isn't already dead. How am I supposed to walk in these heels? I never learned how to walk in heels. This doesn't make any sense. And flags down a cab to get back to that disco. And while he's doing that, Notch and Warstrike just kind of walk around the corner and go, hey, watch where you're going. So I guess he's not that far, or maybe they've just been like hanging out for a while and like, cruising the town. They've just got trench coats over their ridiculous outfits. And he just kind of, watches them walk away and just like, huh. Well, I guess can't really do anything about that right now, can I? And looks across the street, there's a cop car. Okay, so they're actually right outside the disco. So I guess he got there okay. So why was he going to flag down a cab? That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't matter. He wants to find out what the cover story is about what happened at the disco. So he's going to ask the cops, but he's like, how do I do this in a way that's not super suspicious? Oh, wait a minute. I got boobs now. And he just kind of walks up and points his boobs at them and thrusts out his hip and goes, what seems to be the problem, officers? Which I would kind of like to see in a movie or like a TV show. Like you could totally do it if you did it as CG character. If it's like all animated. And you put a dude in one of them ping pong ball suits. Only, his CG character is a woman. And you get him like walking wrong and like trying to throw out his hip. And it just doesn't look right at all. So anyway, it turns out there was only one survivor. So his entire crew is dead. And with the Archimage gone, that means they're not coming back. It turns out there was one survivor who went to the hospital. And they say she, so it's probably the door lady. So that's where Lucas / Eden's next objective is. And he's just going to run down an alley because that's the easiest way to get to the hospital. And he used to be a dude. So naturally, why wouldn't you do that? If you get jumped, you hit him with your dude strength and your 1,500 years of combat training, right? Well, apparently dude strength accounts for most of his combat effectiveness because he gets jumped by a mugger who quickly decides to elevate his status to rapist and, grabs, I don't know whether to say his or her shirt, their shirt, that seems to be safest these days, throws them down on the ground, and he's gonna have a time. And apparently Lucas can't do anything about this. You'd think, again, that 1,500 years of combat experience would be good for something, but apparently not. Should have learned some jujitsu in there somewhere. And he starts panicking, I guess, because this is kind of the first time in centuries that he's been in this kind of position. And for some reason, the dude bursts into flames, and Lucas runs away. So, interesting stuff going on. It's certainly kind of involving this whole body swap thing. I would have liked to have seen it without the rape, personally. That is certainly a fast track way to show that he's got to get used to the kind of physical capability that he has now, which is not nearly as much as what he's used to. But I'm sure there's a way that you could have done that without it being rape, probably. But see, here's another one where it should have been a page turn reveal, and it's like, oh, we're going to ruin that. So, okay, he gets to the hospital, and the one survivor from the club is Katinya. She was the door girl, the familiar of the Archimage, and without the Archimage's power, she no longer is kept eternally young, so she's aging rapidly. Yeah, okay. And she doesn't have very long left. She, of course, recognizes Lucas immediately, because that's her deal, and this apparently was the last-ditch thing that the Archimage had come up with, because the Archimage has been steadfast about technology over the centuries, while Boneyard and his cronies have been all about magic. And apparently his go for broke idea is, well, shit, why don't we put you in a woman's body and you do magic? So I guess she can usually do magic, or maybe she had magic potential, or maybe not. I don't know. But she hands Lucas this little talisman thingy, and when they take it, their eyes flash, and all of a sudden they are Mantra, wearing very little clothing, just the breastplate and the loincloth, essentially. And he's like, well, at least it's got flat heels. That's a plus. But, this should have been a page-turn reveal. It seems like Terry Dodgson had it all mapped out and then just didn't take into account that first splash. And, that's a pretty good splash. He set it on a nice angle. The figure work looks pretty good. She looks maybe like her body's a little bit too big. But that is kind of fine for superheroes, right? Like she's kind of like even as a female character, she's like larger than life. And yeah, so now she's in this crazy freaking getup, and that's when Katinya has passed away. And the cops show up immediately and go, hey, why are you in here with this corpse? You seem suspicious. So Lucas tries to do wibbly wobbly stuff with his fingers, but nothing happens. So he pushes them instead and runs fast, which I like quite a bit, actually. But he's trying to do the magic, he set that mugger on fire in the alley. Maybe this woman has magic capabilities. I guess that must be the deal. but it's not something that he can do on command just yet. While he's running, he's like, this would be a lot easier if I wasn't dressed like a freaking clown. And at the thought, his body turns back into its regular appearance with her boyfriend's clothes. So it's like, oh, okay, maybe we got something then. Goes, finds a cab, checks on her driver's license, because I guess she's got that, and gets the cab to take her home where, her mom is there, or his body's mom is there with the kids. The kids are all happy to see her. It's like, yay! Oh, I know your daughter and son. Good to see both of you small people. And Lucas is just like, yeah, thanks for looking after the kids tonight, Mom. You wouldn't want to take them to your place, maybe, for a sleepover, would you? And Mom's like, nope. Grandparents' privilege. Peace out. So yeah, Grandma takes off. Daughter's like, read me a story, Mom. And Lucas is just like, no, go to bed, little girl. You too, son. I don't know your names. And, he's being all like harsh taskmastery. And son's like, geez, my fault you didn't get lucky. It's like, damn, kid, calm down. Lucas heads to the kitchen, and he just kind of like head spinning. It's like he said, I haven't been this alone since the 5th century. He doesn't have any of his order anymore. Has a glass of whiskey. Turns out this body doesn't even like whiskey, so he's just boned. Then there's a knock at the door, and it's Warstrike in his frickin' trench coat, who says, hello, Mrs. Blake, although I'm sure you'd rather I call you Lucas. And it's like, great, so now I'm just dead. And that's going to be the cliffhanger for Mantra issue 1. Yeah, Rune doesn't look too bad. Hey, that's a decent looking comic. Yeah, all right, so that was Mantra. You know what? With that middle spread there that I managed to miss the first time through, it makes a fair bit more sense. So, not really a bad comic in terms of the writing. The art has a ways to go before it's like, you could call it good, I'd say. But it's at least competent, and we know where Terry Dodson's going to go. He's going to actually turn out to be very good. Maybe not before Mantra ends at issue 24, but you never know what cranking out pages for 2 years is going to do for you, right? Okay, he didn't do all of them. He did maybe a little bit more than half, but still, like getting regular comic work, that'll level you up quickly. So it'd be kind of interesting to see what his last Mantra comic book looks like, actually, to see what the difference is between that and this issue. Because he changed quite a bit even over the course of this issue. Although there's always the possibility that first 2 pages was just by somebody else. Who knows? So anyway, yeah, decent story, decent concept. Like you can turn that into something interesting for sure. Although it doesn't sound like they really did, and the fact that the first series of Mantra only goes 24 issues kind of speaks to that. But not bad for a single first issue anyway. And yeah, just interesting for that kind of curiosity factor. So anyway, yeah, that's going to do it. I don't think we're going to do another issue of Mantra, but like I said, I've got plenty of other Malibu things to look at. Maybe they'll be good. You never know. It's a bit of a dice roll with Malibu. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notification so you know when the next one's coming out. Go over and subscribe on my Patreon. Gives you early access to everything I do, from the Blood Force stuff to the YouTube videos before they get uploaded to YouTube, as well as some Patreon exclusive content. You can also follow me on Instagram and DM me there for commissions, and you can join the Blood Force Discord server. But yeah, that's going to do it. Thanks again for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.